Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soulful Hunter Podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack. Through this podcast, I'm on a mission to transform lives through primal adventure and to spread my mission of mentorship as conservation. This podcast is powered by Washington Backcountry, a resource for all hunters, both new and old. To find out more about Washington Backcountry, go to wabackcountry.com or search for Washington Backcountry on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. The Soulful Hunter Podcast is also proudly presented by T&K Hunting Gear. If you haven't heard about T&K, then it's about time you do. I've been using T&K gear out in the field and on hunts and have fallen in love with their stuff. T&K is veteran-owned and 100% made in America using only American-made products. All their gear is covered under a lifetime warranty with no questions asked. If it breaks or fails, they will fix it or replace it for free. T&K is your resource for bino harnesses, bow slings, and a lot more amazing gear. For more information about T&K hunting gear, go to tnkhunting.com or search for them on Facebook and Instagram. I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Freedom on and stay soulful. The Soulful Hunter Podcast is also proudly presented by the Crazy Elk Company. Based out of the state of Washington with products made in America, they are providing solutions with gear to problems you didn't even know you had. Their tag wallet is one of those solutions, and I had the pleasure of using it on all of my hunts this last year, and it is now a mainstay in my kill kit. The tag wallet is a water-resistant zippered pouch that comes with its own reusable zip ties to safely and securely store your notch tag for quick and easy access. For more information, go to crazyelkcompany.com and use the code SOULFUL with a capital S to save 20% at checkout. Be blessed, everyone, and as always, stay soulful. What's up, everybody? Thanks for listening to this episode of the Soulful Hunter Podcast. A couple announcements to share with all of you before we get started and diving into this wonderful episode with Ryan Lampers. First off, we recently started a Facebook group called Soul Seekers, and it's all about hunting, mentorship, conservation, becoming a better person. So if you're on Facebook and you want to get involved in a group that is open for discussion and open for questions, we also have a mentorship tab in which you can go sign up to be a mentor or a mentee and get connected with other people all over the country, and just a great way to get plugged in and stay more up to date in what's happening in this world with hunting, with Soulful Hunter, and all that we are doing. So I want to make sure that you guys all are aware of that. And then also, I hope you are blessed. I hope that you are encouraged and good cheer. I know you're going to love this episode with Ryan Lampers. He is a phenomenal human being and a really talented hunter. If you guys ever have suggestions for podcast topics or anything like that, make sure to drop me a line on social media. You also go to Soulful Hunter and go to the Contact Us page. That's soulfulhunter.com. Go to the Contact Us page, drop me a line. I'll be looking forward to hearing from you. Be blessed, everybody. And as always, stay soulful. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Soulful Hunter Podcast. Today, I have the man himself, Mr. Stealthy Hunter. You know him, Ryan Lampers, just an absolute stud, a legend from the state of Washington, and someone who is leaving his lasting legacy on the hunting world with how he goes about showing up, what he is doing. He's constantly creating, constantly innovating, and just being a face and a voice for hunting. And it's so awesome to be able to share a conversation with him today. So Ryan Lampers, the Stealthy Hunter, how you doing, my man? Thanks for being here.
Oh, Johnny, man, that is quite the intro there. I don't know if I'll ever live up to that intro, but doing fantastic. Doing great. Just living the Montana life here. Sitting down in my basement where it's quiet and away from the dogs and everything, and looking to have a great conversation with you today.
Oh, yeah. So all you listeners out there, I feel horrible about last year on Valentine's Day. I recorded an episode down at the Western Hunt Expo in Salt Lake City with Ryan and his beautiful wife, Doc Hillary, and I wasn't prepared to do a three-way recording an episode with all of us, and so the audio turned out horrible, and so I feel like this is like my redeeming episode to make sure I have with Ryan, and then I'm going to follow up with Hillary as well to make sure we talk all this stuff. But Ryan,
look, no apologies, Johnny. Real quick, no apologies, because if I remember right, it was Valentine's Day, right?
Yep.
I think, did my wife yell at me in our conversation?
I wouldn't
Or did
say
she throw me under the bus? I think she might have threw me under the bus a little bit. So I'm perfectly okay with that conversation not getting aired. It was fun, but no, but we'll keep that one hidden.
I love it. Yeah, there is some good conversation and some definitely like relationship advice
Yeah. Not well.
information.
And let's clarify, not that I didn't deserve to get thrown under the bus, because I obviously did, and I'm sure I deserved it. But and she's good at doing that at times. But no, she's amazing.
I love it. Well, let's dive into the meat and potatoes of this episode, and we'll save all that stuff for another time, another rainy
Perfect.
day. But Ryan, first off, you're crushing it with the content that you're putting out these days. I love watching your videos. You know, you came out with, I think it was your spring bear episodes last year with Brian Call, right before my spring bear hunt, and like there's just so much energy going and all of this. What's the future hold for the stealthy hunter and everything that since leaving the state of Washington, you kind of taken a full on dive into going full time hunting.
Yeah, for sure. What the future holds, all good things, I hope. Yeah, since we left Washington there and became residents over here a few years ago, boy, I really have just dove deeper into this community and tried to be, more a part of it. Similar to what you're doing back there in the state of Washington, and that's doing a little bit more mentoring and kind of trying to. I hate even saying that I'm trying to educate, because that sounds like egotistical, I guess. But it's kind of fun to take people under your wing that are just starting or learning. And now that we live here and we've got this environment, that's kind of what we've dove into. And we do these summits now and all that. So you know what the future holds with what we're doing. Most of it is just my wife and I. We've done the hunt harvest health thing, trying to inspire folks in within with recipes and with health advice or nutrition advice, a little bit of motivation or inspiration, I guess. um, I take a back seat to my wife in most of those things. She's a better content creator than I am, Johnny. I just like to stomp around mountains and look at cool stuff. But yeah, I think where we're at with kids at the ages they're in, or they're at, and with my wife's job and what I'm doing and what Brian and I are doing, we've just had a blast trying to, um, I guess, create content. Never thought I'd be doing that, but just really treating a hunt like you would normally treat it, and just kind of showing it off, and it's kind of inspired some folks, to say the least, to get out and do it. It's really cool, just with the little bit that we've done through videos, to see comments coming in, and so many people are inspired to go out and take their first bear hunt or do their first mule deer hunt out west in one of these states. And it's cool to get those kind of comments, emails, DMs from people who, like I say, the videos must have resonated, because they're definitely, I feel like there's this like really big push into taking on some of these big adventure hunts, not just treating them as a weekend anymore, but coming out and really pushing yourself and seeing great, amazing places that the West holds on some public lands. And those videos have allowed us to really do that, and I guess motivate people to do it themselves. For the longest time back in Washington State, before we really had any platform or anything to reach people, we were just doing these things selfishly, and we'd go on these big trips, whether they're hunts or big hikes or just adventures, and we kind of had it to ourselves. Now I feel like I'm at that point in life where I'm 47 years old. I'm getting up there. That you do kind of want to give back and inspire folks to, just don't look at the pictures, go do it yourself, and see what we're talking about.
Yeah, I tell you, it has been so much fun diving into the world of hunting so much more. And it's so funny. I have this conversation a lot with a lot of new folks that reach out to me or on the website, and they're like, I want to learn how to hunt. And they focus just on one animal. They're like, I want to kill a deer this year. And I'm like, okay, but there's so much more to about hunting and learning how to hunt versus killing an animal.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've really within the last year and a half expanded my horizons to see like I want to hunt year round. I enjoy the process of hunting regardless of what animal it is. I love being a field. I love the adventure, finding new things, and I think this is lost a little bit when it comes to the concept of hunter recruitment and mentorship is this constant idea that it has to be one animal rather than this journey. And so I love the content that you're putting out, talking about bears and, going to New Zealand and shooting these different animals. And there's so much more than just the starting spot of shooting a deer, which is the hang up for a lot of new hunters. They're like, I can only go deer hunting.
Yeah.
And it's lost on them, I feel like.
Yeah. And look, I have no guilt or shame in saying that I treat hunting as a lifestyle. Like our world, it really does revolve around it in a lot of ways. And I think that's a good thing. It's not just about the hunting, but when you take on like big mountain adventures and these big trips, you do have to be physically fit. So you tend to never let yourself go. You want to be healthy, so you tend to eat better. And treating that as a year round process versus just this 2 weeks in the fall type thing. Looking at hunts in the spring, looking at hunts in January, whatever that hunt may be, spreading it out. It almost forces you to stay on track, to be in the best shape you can, to be as healthy as you can, and never get out of tune. You're always shooting, whether that's rifle or bow. And I really do like treating this as a lifestyle. And we've got so many great folks in this community that do the same thing, that it's it's something that I would advise anybody and everybody to get into and really look at it and treat it that way. I know there's a lot of content creators out there that are doing that, and they revolve their world around this thing that they love to do. And hunting is one of those pieces that it just fits the bill. We garden in the summertime and have all that excess meat going into the fall, and that makes for great backcountry meals that we can dehydrate ourselves. And so even gardening can be kind of tied into this thing that we do in the fall season.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I actually am going to be, with the help of my friends, Will, who, if you follow along on this podcast, Will Weber was a guy who I took him on his very first hunt this last August for black bear. And we got him on one. We did not get an opportunity to seal the deal, but he just fell in love and was hooked and is a big fan of the self-sustaining lifestyle. And so he was actually talking to me about, hey, let's start making our own freeze-dried meals with the meat that we take over the year and going in there. And I was like, yes, that is full circle, because
It is.
when you're eating your own meat, there's so much sense of pride and accomplishment with it. And it's like, look at me, this is awesome. And so to be able to do that, what are some of your favorite meals that you create for yourself when you're taking them in the backcountry?
Oh man, yeah, this is a hot topic with me, Johnny. I love food. I love making my own food. There's companies I like to support that have good, clean backcountry meals, but um, when you start building your own, and you get to kind of tailor, your meal plan to things that you can build yourself. Like one of my favorites is like a bear meat spaghetti, or you know, um, you can do a chili that's made out of bear meat. I love bear meat.
So do
Uh,
I'm a
you can
huge
make
fan.
you can make meals out of all these, whether it's venison or bear meat or whatever. But I do a I do a wild game quinoa curry dish that I could eat that all 10 days up there in the hills every night if I wanted to. It's just that good. And it's really just a combination of garden vegetables and whatever meat you got that you pulled out of your freezer, that you've built either a stew or a soup or some type of a meal. And then you just simply throw it on the dehydrator. You feed your family that night, just make about 3-4 times that you would typically eat, and then fill up 9 racks. And you got 9 meals that next day when you wake up. You dehydrated them overnight, and there you go. Air chamber seal them, and you just built some meals for another hunt.
That's
And
so
it really
awesome.
is. I like the way you put it. It's full circle, because you do get to take some of the meat from the prior year and take that and utilize it the following season when you're actually up there chasing another animal.
Yeah.
So
Dude, it's so special, man. Seriously, every time I talk about hunting and when I'm chatting with you, man, I just got like the biggest smile on my face. I'm like, yeah, go
Johnny,
hunt.
I don't know that I've ever seen you without a smile on your face. A big one.
Well, there's a lot to be grateful for. I can tell you that. Life is
Yeah.
good and life happens for us, not to us. And that's something that I constantly am sharing on this podcast. And so, yeah, you're right, man. Life is great. It is a great day to be alive.
Absolutely.
One of the things I'm really looking forward to is shepherd's pie.
Hmm.
Dehydrating a bunch of mashed potatoes, carrots, whatever other veggies we want to put in there, but bear
Yeah.
meat specifically, because it's so funny. My wife just last night, I cooked up some backstrap from one of our deer that we took this year, and she's like, "Oh, this is incredible!" And then we were talking about bear hunting, and she's like, "Yeah, it turns out that there's a reason why you're a bear hunter before these other things." And I was like, "Why is that?" She goes, "Because it's the only steaks that you can cook that actually cook the way that you like to eat them."
Hmm.
Everyone's always like, "Dude, you're way overcooking that," and I'm like, "Yeah, but that's how I like it."
Isn't that crazy with bear? Is it's the meat that I mean, you could probably overcook it, but you literally like cook the crud out of it, cook the snot out of it, and it's perfect. You do that with a real lean game animal, and it's going to be leather. But yeah, that shepherd's pie thing, that's funny. My daughter's really gotten into cooking lately, and she's gotten into baking. She's also gotten into practicing with some of her meals. And so the other night she did her first shepherd's pie, and it was just the venison from the deer that she took this year. We ground that up fresh, and then all the veggies, and we ended up topping it with a cauliflower instead of typical potatoes or whatever.
Yeah.
And so we mashed up a bunch of cauliflower with some spice to it, and that's how we topped it. Man, that's going in my pack this next year too. I'm gonna build some meals with that cauliflower shepherd's pie. It was so good,
I
and my kids loved it. Absolutely loved it.
That is awesome. I'm going to put that down because I'm a huge fan of, I mean, I wouldn't say cauliflower rice is my favorite, but like cauliflower pizza crusts or,
Is that good?
oh,
Yeah,
dude, it's so
yeah.
good. And it tricks the brain. Like you don't realize that's what you're eating.
Right. If you do it right, and you've like squeezed enough moisture out of the cauliflower dough that you're creating, it really, you wouldn't even tell. You'd never in a million years think of it as cauliflower. And that's how the shepherd's pie was. And the reason we did that is both my girls have I don't know if, yes, you could call it an allergy. They just get stomach aches if they eat anything with potato in it, which seems like a crime. But so we've gotten around eating anything with potato. So we kind of have to be careful with that. And so we use cauliflower for a lot of things that would otherwise take something potato.
It's a great supplement. Yeah, and a
It
great
is.
great replacement. Man, that's so cool.
Absolutely.
I'm going to add that to the recipe list. My wife, she's celiac disease, and so
Yep.
she can't do
Yep.
anything with gluten, but she also has a hard time with nightshades. So
Uh,
tomatoes, mushrooms, peppers. And
mhm.
so the way we cook is always a different version because of those allergies. And so for all you
Right.
listening out there, take some notes because this is some good stuff right here. Ryan, what I want to get back onto is when you were talking about the mentorship at the beginning of this episode, you're talking about you feel like, it's finally time to maybe give back to the knowledge that you've gained over the years, but also to give back to something that's given to you so much. And you started your Western hunting summits that you've been doing the last couple years. And I know it's been something that I've wanted to come out and attend. I'm also in the process of maybe doing something similar, more on the local level over
Yep.
here for like real beginners.
Yep.
How's that going? And what type of follow up have you had from people that have been attending your summit and, people who haven't even heard of the summit? Go ahead
Hmm.
and talk about it.
Yeah. So the Western Hunting Summit, it's gone great. I'll just start there with where it started a couple years ago. We've now had 4 summits up until this point. One of them got canceled last year, some COVID restrictions early. But this upcoming 2021, we have 3 more summits on the docket. And gosh, we did a pre-sale back in January for it. I was down chasing deer in Arizona at the time, probably the last place I should have been when we launched our pre-sale for the summit. But it did fantastic. We had a really big amount of folks signed up for it this year, which is great to see. From where this started, my wife and I, we've had these conversations over and over, and I give full credit to any successes that I've had from mentors that taught me, whether that was my dad or whether that was my uncle, who is a really fantastic hunter as well. I met a mentor in North Idaho. His name was Dallas Blood, another great gentleman that took me under his wing and taught me everything, a lifetime of learning that it took him. And I literally, I didn't know the guy. Um, I brought him out to a lake and I started teaching him how to fly fish. He was a mutual acquaintance of an old Seahawk, actually, old Seahawk quarterback named John Freeze. It was his old high school coach out of North Idaho. And he introduced me to Dallas, and Dallas invited me out for 3 weeks. Um, he didn't put a time frame on it. He just said, "Come on out to North Idaho. We're going to go, I'll show you what I know." And he took the time out and he showed me and he learned me a crud ton of knowledge. And I know I wouldn't have a quarter of the success without Dallas's help. And then also, again, my father. So, um, with that, I think Hill and I, in our conversations, we wanted to try to emulate some of that. It's never the same as a father that takes you out and has a ton of time to spend with you, but in a way, we want to try to educate folks on some of the things that have helped, whether it's just fill tags or some of the things that have helped get us into the backcountry. And there's so much under that umbrella, from gear to tactics to map reading to e-scouting to just all the things that you have soaked up over the years as a seasoned hunter. Some of the things you forget, and some of the things you just take for granted. So, what I wanted to do with the Western Hunting Summit is create a community of folks. Before I start there, I used to be involved. I used to do a lot of these train to hunt events. I don't think they had any events last year, but a gentleman named Kenton Claremont started these events. And my first one that I competed in was down in Nevada. Met some of the best humans ever when I did that event, and I did quite a few after that. And that little community of guys that got together and they learned things, they shot through these courses, and we suffered with backpacks on weighted backpacks through timed events, and all competing against each other. I mean, there was a lot of suck that came from those events, right? And in the end, you just respect everybody, and everybody's competed and done and kind of suffered through the same thing. And you build these great friendships with these folks when you compete like that. And, they weren't giant groups of folks, smaller groups, like anywhere from 20 to 50 folks, but you become really good, tight friends with a lot of these people. And that always kind of, Hill and I give credit to those guys for starting that event as well, because we loved being in that community of people, and something we wanted to try to emulate or create ourselves. And it's kind of what we're attempting with the summits, and what we have had. It's happened. because we've had 4 events already, and a lot of the gentlemen or ladies that show up, um, they've either hunted a little bit, hunted not at all, or they've hunted a lot and they just haven't found that thing that's put them over the top, or that's made them feel like they've finally figured it out. And so, what I wanted to do with my events was bring in some of the most successful, consistent, well spoken people that can answer any and all questions from anybody who comes and attends these things. So, education was the biggest part when I first started this. Like, the education part was it. Like, I wanted to cut the learning curve for people who were struggling. And that was the goal. And I think everybody has really enjoyed them so far. We do these surveys at the end, and the surveys have been really good feedback. But you're always trying to evolve and change them and make them better. And and so I'm constantly tweaking these things. And not only now, I obviously I want to spend a lot of time educating and answering any and all questions that an attendee has when they show up. And but also I want to make it fun. Like, I want this to be an experience that they remember. I want them to come away with close friendships, maybe even a new hunting partner. I know, um, I've gone on a couple hunts now with folks that have attended the summit. I've got another hunt this September that I'm going to go and hunt with a gentleman who attended. He's actually attended 3 of the summits. Um, so him and I are going down with a couple of others, and we're going to go chase some elk. But that was kind of the what we had in mind when we started it, was create a community of folks that can all kind of better each other. And you know the folks that I've had come speak at these events are like just fantastic people. I can't speak highly enough of them. I've tried to get guys that are positive. They have a lot of information to be able to put out there that's really valuable. Um, this year I've got Robbie Denning coming. You've had him on your podcast, and I'm sure for folks that listen, you just know that's the kind of guy I want at the summit. Robbie's coming this year. Brian Barney will be there again. He's at every event. I've kind of locked that guy down, so he can't get away from me, because I love Brian. He's great. He's um, he's an absolute stud in the mountains. He's positive, family man. He just does everything right. You know,
Beautiful.
he he's just an incredible human, and that's why he has success. And he's also very good at answering people's questions and really deep diving into any little bit of information that they might have. Mark Livesey is another gentleman that comes, and he is probably the absolute best when it comes to e-scouting and map reading and map building and hunt planning and all those type things. So he'll be there, and a whole host of others, from Travis Nowotny to Brady Millers to those type guys. And so there's a theme there. Like, I want guys that have proven to they have this thing that's making them successful year after year after year after year. Um, and that's what I want people to be able to kind of lean on them and be able to ask them any and all questions, whether that's in a presentation or whether that's off to the side on one of the hikes that we're going to be doing out at the property, or whether that's during the 3D shoot that we're doing on the property. It's kind of fun and less intimidating to ask people all your questions when it's not maybe in a classroom setting, but it's just kind of on the mountain, off to the side, just a casual conversation, or at dinner. My summits have evolved into, we keep all attendees at the ranch all 4 days, and they're going to be camping there. We're going to be feeding all of them. We're going to be doing a lot of shooting, and a lot of, like, sitting around the barbecue at night eating good food, healthy food. And that's going to be a lot of fun this year. So that's kind of what we've created there with the Western Hunting Summit.
Yeah, that is awesome and so exciting. I think one of the biggest things for me personally, taken away from what you just said, being a school teacher, I know that students don't like asking questions in front of other people.
Hmm.
Their courage is something that everyone has the ability to have courage. Not everyone acts on courage at all times. So, virtual learning right now, everything is through Zoom classroom. I'll be like, hey, if you have a question that you don't feel like asking in front of the class, I'll stay on the Zoom and you can have more of that one-on-one interaction.
Yeah.
Also, people, there's some type of intimidation factor where it's like, oh my gosh, this is Ryan Lampers, some guy who I've been following on social media and I watch on YouTube, or all these other different types of people. At the end of the day, we're just dudes, and
Yeah. That's,
we know the same struggles that you know. We just have maybe a different take on it or more experience to be able to answer it, or perspective.
yeah.
So that's one.
That's just it. There's nothing special about any one of us. Like, yeah, myself, any of the presenters, but they typically just have experience, so they're able to answer them. And hopefully, folks that attend these and eventually they'll be there where they themselves can be answering questions to other students that are just getting involved in hunting with a few years of experience under their belt. There's no reason why they can't be also out there, talking about hunting in a way that inspires others to get out and do it right and do it safe.
Absolutely. And so one of the questions I have for you, because this is something that as an end user of, going and hearing everything that you guys are sharing, if I'm more interested in just learning how to hunt,
Mhm.
what animal, what summit would you recommend me signing up for? Is it more
Mhm.
of a, hey, come to the bear summit because that's going to teach you more like the flora and fauna and the, spring season, fall season? Is it elk,
Oh,
deer, or is it kind of all of that is mixed in within the whole thing, and then you can dive down the rabbit holes of each individual animal through those summits?
yeah, so we did a little something different this year. Last year, all the events we were very specific with the animal. We thought we'd give that a try because there's guys that really their focus is elk. There's guys that they just want to. They've done the elk and the deer. They wanted to learn some bear, so we did that last year. This year we changed it up again on everybody, and we went more of a weapon specific and season specific. So really, any of the events will probably be able to answer most people's questions. The first event that we have is rifle specific for the guys that really don't have an interest in bow hunting. Maybe they just want a little bit more info when it comes to that time frame of mid-October through November type hunts. Maybe they want a little bit of education on or shooting instruction with the rifle. We're going to have a range out there. We got Joel Turner coming in. He's going to be doing a little instruction with guys, even at the Rifle Summit, which everybody knows Joel as a bow hunter and probably one of the best shooters out there. But he's also, one of those SWAT team leader guys that is absolutely incredible with the rifle. So he'll be able to answer people's questions. And then there's a combo summit in the middle, which covers both aspects. We'll be talking about, early season, late season, a little bit of bow, a little bit of rifle. And then the very last summit is archery only. And just kind of looking at how they filled up, the archery only sold out really quick. It was gone. The combo win it went to actually the last one to fill is rifle. There's spots left on that one, a few, but uh, it was kind of interesting to see how that would play out. You were just never really sure as we change these every year. But I think any and all of the events would really be beneficial for somebody just getting involved because we can't talk about bear hunting. We can talk about deer or elk or really everything.
Yeah.
So
And at the same time, like the only reason I got into bow hunting was because I heard that it'll provide you a better opportunity to hunt them during the rut. And so I was like,
yeah,
oh, okay. Well, I bought my bow specifically to shoot elk.
elk. Yeah,
Now, I didn't really have any interest in giving up my rifle tag for deer to go hunt deer with the bow. However, I've also had opportunities now because I have a bow that I've taken deer on a rifle tag, but with a
Hmm.
bow because the
Right.
way the landowner permissions and all sorts of different things. And so
Yeah.
it really does open up your horizons to once again the whole concept of hunting as a whole rather than being I am deer specific, I am rifle specific and going down that hole.
Yeah, I love it when guys are like a jack of all trades in this because it opens up this whole new world when you dive into archery. Rifle is one thing. You get down the rabbit hole when it comes to archery, and it's just fun, man. It opens up seasons for you. It definitely lengthens out the year for you. You get those earlier hunts, and yeah, it puts you on more opportunities to chase bulls during the rut when they're screaming. Most rifle hunts don't allow you that. They put you out there later. So, personally, I love hunting both. I love archery seasons. I also love rifle seasons. I'm not a snob on either side of the aisle there. I wouldn't poo poo anybody for doing just one. Um, but I love hearing that guys are doing a little bit of both now, more than they used to.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I feel like you want to be a hunter. You don't want
Yeah,
to be just a specific animal or weapon
right.
hunter. And there's
Right.
nothing wrong with it if you do. Just know that if you
Yeah.
enjoy hunting, it's just so much fun to be able to have the opportunities year round with different tags.
Yes. Now, if you become a bow hunter, just don't fall in that trap of being a snob about it and acting as if you're better than rifle hunters because um, that is not the case. Some of the rifle hunts that we do are way harder than people probably think they are. And you can challenge yourself with the rifle just like you can challenge yourself with the bow. A lot of that will have to do with the country that you put yourself in. With a rifle, you can make it as challenging as you want, and still, be able to poke out there 300 yards or so.
Yeah.
Uh, don't think that going just rifle is a cakewalk because it's not.
Dude, I love that answer. And I also want to follow it up with this. Have you ever brought a rifle and a bow on a hunt with
Yeah,
the intent of, okay, I'm going to shoot it with a bow, but I
yeah.
might poke it with a rifle? I've heard someone told me, Chad Riker of Backcountry Rookies podcast, he said, never take a rifle with you on a bow hunt if you're planning on shooting it with a bow, because the minute that you have it within rifle range, you're probably going to
It's
hop on
true.
that and squeeze that trigger. Have you
Yep.
had that same experience?
Yeah, yeah, I've done it multiple times, and I hear that argument a lot. You can't argue with that. Like if there's a rifle on your back as well as a bow, chances are you're not going to take the extra time to sneak in within bow range. You're probably going to take that animal from a distance. Um, but in saying that, there's still certain hunts where I think it just makes sense. It just works. Like just just half your hunt is all in on bow. If it's a really tough hunt, break out the rifle. You got to have the willpower to say, I'm not picking up the rifle, until this point. But I think Chad's right. I think generally, if you have a rifle in camp or on your back at the same time, chances are you're probably gonna, use the rifle.
It freaking cracks me up. I love it. So, two things. Number one, I'm planning on in 4 years to go to Alaska on a moose hunt. And I'm like, I want to arrow one, but I don't want to come home empty handed. And so, if I need to reach for a rifle, I want to
Yeah.
have that option. That's a bridge I'm going to have to cross at some point. On my spring bear hunt from this last year, and for the listeners, you can go watch my video that I submitted to the Badlands Film Festival, and it shows a little bit of that hunt. Well, if you notice, when I shoot my bear with my rifle, I have an archery release on my wrist. So my
I
hunting,
watched that. I didn't pick up on that. Yeah.
yeah. So we bring in one rifle that Tony and I share, and then I was like, I want to shoot a bear with my bow. And so, because the way Tony and I hunt, I wanted him to have the first opportunity to shoot, and he just missed on a bear prior. And I was like, well, shoot, one bear down is better than me trying to attempt a stalk on a bear and shoot one. So I wanted to make sure that we at least were able to land one. And so when I saw my bear, even though it was in perfect position to make a stalk. Wind was uphill, it was downhill. I had a nice path to come down. I could have been hidden. I was like, nope, I'm hopping on the rifle and I'm I'm putting this one down.
That's how it goes.
And,
Yeah, that's
and
how it goes.
I do not regret my decision.
Yeah.
However, now moving forward, I also have another goal of I want to shoot a bear with a bow. And
Yeah.
and that'll happen at some point.
Yeah, and it's great to be able to just add layers of challenge to what you're doing, right? That's the other advantage of taking up bow hunting. I there's places like you could grab, sometimes like a place like Idaho, there's areas, they're usually pretty wild areas, that will allow you a couple of bear tags. So you get these reduced bear tags. Again, if you have the willpower to stay off the rifle, maybe treat your first bear as a rifle hunt and take that first one. You got meat in the freezer, like you got meat hanging, and then put that thing in camp and hide the ammo, and then take your bow out and try to fill that next tag. If you get one, great. If you don't, you have to settle. But
Yeah.
there's certain hunts like that where it kind of makes sense. But yeah, I'm with you. I think most of the time the rifle's coming out. If it's within, if you can grab it, if it's close, you're gonna pull it.
I freaking love it. I love hearing that. Okay, so shifting gears here real quick, I want to talk about CBD. So I know that Stealthy Hunter came out with your guys' own brand of CBD products this last year. Was it this
Mhm.
last year in 2020?
Yep,
Yeah,
it
okay.
was.
So I was training for an ultra marathon last year. I was gonna run a 100-mile race March 20th, but it got canceled because of COVID. And so
Mhm.
3 weeks before the race, I had my like dream crushed. And leading up to that, I ran up to 40 miles at one point, and I was doing a ton of training. Well, being a former athlete, injuries add up, or you take ibuprofen as this preventative measure, but also to help you recover. And I didn't want to do that to my liver. That seemed like a ton of medicine that I'm putting in my body that at the end of the day, like if I start to, and really coronavirus has caused me to take even a further step back and evaluate what we are actually putting in our body.
Mhm.
But I'm like, okay, well, if CBD can give me the same type of benefits as ibuprofen and it's not going to be damaging my liver like ibuprofen will,
Yep.
why not try it out? And so I started doing topical CBD on my quads, my hamstrings, and my calves, but then I'd also ingest a little tincture as well.
Yeah.
And man, I tell you what, not only was my muscles feeling better, I also slept I slept really good as well,
Nice.
which
Nice.
also helped with the recovery. Y-
Recovery.
and if you're not sleeping, you're not going to recover that well. That's when our body regenerates. So CBD, how long have you been using it, Ryan? And how are things going with that in regards to having your own brand?
Yeah, it's going good. Yeah, I've been using it for a couple years. Again, I'll mention I'm old, so I'm looking for things that are going to help me recover. When you do these big trips and you have long seasons, I've told this story many times, but I used to end up my season, end of November, coming off that last hunt. It's usually got a bunch of snow, you're post holing, you're just worn out from the pack out on that last hunt in November. It used to take me so long to recover, like um, take me weeks and weeks to just finally feel like I was human again and my legs were working right. Now, there's not just one thing that contributed to that. I think it's a multiple things. One of them being the diet. CBD is fantastic, but having a clean diet that's not loaded with sugar is also fantastic and probably the most important thing you could do. Um, so we try to clean up our diet as much as we can. And we're not perfect. We're still eating sugar at times. We just try to limit it as much as possible. And especially when we're on those hunts. But there's some supplements like CBD was kind of on the radar for a while. And I know when I first started learning about it, I was a skeptic. I didn't know what that stuff was about. I was like a lot of people. I was like marijuana. I don't really want any part of that. I'm a boring individual, Johnny. I don't I don't drink, I don't smoke, I never have, I don't do any of that stuff. So, I was like, CBD just sounds like hocus pocus. But again, like my wife's education and what she has learned, what she had learned about it, and the effects, and just kind of reading reviews and hearing testimonials and talking to more people. We ran into a guy here in Montana who educated both Hill and I about it, Matt Kleeman. And he's been working with CBD for a long time. And he works with it more so for cancer patients. Um, and he has incredible success with doing that. A lot of, CBD can help with a lot of different things, one of them being nausea. Um, and for folks that have been nauseous a time or two in their lives, it's hard to eat when you're feeling like that. And for cancer patients, if they're not eating, they're not getting better. And so they use that for folks that have that nausea going on. And it just helps them, try to recover and get better. But it's got a lot of different uses. Sleep is another one. Anxiety is a big one. A lot of people take it and benefit greatly if they experience anxiety all the time. Now, I don't have any trouble sleeping. Um, Somehow I don't have anxiety in my life. I think that's because I spend so much time on the mountain. Um, but I do abuse my body like most backcountry guys all do. And so, coming out inflamed, beat down, sore muscles, tight joints, all that. I wanted a way like, what can I do to try to alleviate some of that and recover faster and knock down that inflammation? And CBD kind of fit the bill for me, so I started taking it years ago, and it's been absolutely fantastic. And so that's really the only reason I take it is I want to be able to recover more. And like anybody who falls in love with this thing that we do, Johnny, you want to do this till you're 80
Yep.
or more. So I want to be a little bit preventative in taking care of myself. And, I think preventative medicine is important. It's really hard to come back, and get back in shape after you've suffered an overuse injury. Maybe that overuse injury is a knee or, one of the most important parts of your body if you're going to be a backcountry guy. So, when we started the CBD, that was kind of what it was for, because I noticed it helped me. And obviously it's gotten out there now. It's no secret. There's a lot of people that are, on the bandwagon and they're getting great results from it. So yeah, Stealthy Nutrition CBD. We started that company, and geez, our lineup has grown really well. We've got caps and tinctures and sleep formulas and roll-ons, and heck, we've gone beyond CBD, and now we've got krill omega, gel caps and electrolyte drink mixes, and turmeric, which is another one that's
Okay.
anti-inflammatory. So
Okay, so I've heard somebody refer to turmeric as the fountain of youth when it comes
yeah.
to medicinal purposes and nature-driven uh,
Yeah.
naturopathic remedies. Have,
Yeah.
have you guys really dove down that route?
Absolutely. Yeah, we've been taking turmeric for a long time, and it's been known for a long time what the effects of it are. It's incredible, anti-inflammatory. Um, that's the name of the game with turmeric. And we make this turmeric tea at night, so we double dose. Like, we're doing this turmeric tea, but we're also adding a CBD mint tincture to it, the stuff that we have, and that is a great little formula to fall asleep to at the end of the day. Um,
Man, I could just imagine right now. I would love to have a little mountain packet to put into my
yeah.
drink in the evening time. Are you guys selling these as something that you could take into the backcountry, like the little to-go
Not
coffee
yet.
packs or something like that?
Not yet. We're working on that. We hope to have that out by this summer. More of a like, we've got a lineup, but it's not really quite tailored to, like, I'm putting these in baggies and just build my own. I'm taking turmeric packs and omegas and my CBDs, putting them in baggies and packing them in there. But yeah, that's definitely something we're working on right now to make it easier. Just kind of little daily packs that have all the things, the turmeric and the krill,
Yeah. Where
as
can
well as the CBD.
where can people find these at? Just-
Our stuff, Stealthy Nutrition CBD. If you go there, stealthynutritioncbd.com, you just kind of see the lineup that we have going, and we're going to continue adding to it. We've got a lot of ideas. Again, my wife really dives deep into this stuff, and she's been just a really big help for me, as well as for a lot of people in our world, like in our community. She's answering questions as much as I am for gentlemen that or gals that have issues. Maybe it's an overuse injury type thing or some type of a health deal, and she's really done a great job at educating our community through our podcast. It's now the Health podcast, I think, is what it should be called. And she's helped a lot of people through that. So
it cracks me up because I always hear her. She's always like, "Yeah, Ryan's supposed to join me for an episode, but we need to make sure we get one out." So here I am solo. I will say that I don't think you were on this episode, but she interviewed the doctor that you guys are working with for CBD and had him on the podcast. I remember referring to that episode specifically as one of my resources that I went to before I went down the CBD route. So listeners, I don't know, that might have been 2 years ago or something like that. I feel like it's been a while.
Yeah, I think it was last summer. Not summer before last, I guess. Matt Kleeman. Yeah, he's done two podcasts with us. So really, good information on those two podcasts.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so this is going to be some good teasers for people to go check out and to do their own research. Obviously, just like hunting, hunt your hunt. You also need to live your life and live the life that is fulfilling and working for you. So just because someone's like, "Hey, turmeric's a fountain of youth," doesn't mean it's going to be the perfect fit for you. It's not going to be bad for you. At the same time, you got to make sure your life is fulfilled the way you want it to be.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think CBD is one of those hot topics where, let's face it, it's not for everyone. A lot of folks with their job, they can't take CBD still because of the testing and whatnot. And I think I started to talk about there's a lot of misinformation with CBD. It doesn't come, it comes from a hemp plant. There's absolutely zero like mind altering anything when it comes to CBD, or I wouldn't be taking it. But
from the mouth of himself right here, Ryan. I love that. That's I'm sure with your long hair and your long beard, you just blew some people's minds saying that you
don't I look like a pothead? I mean, honestly, I really do, but don't let the hippie look fool you.
On the 2021 season of Brian and Ryan's videos, he's gonna have dreads. He's gonna go Rastafari music the entire time.
I don't know if my wife's gonna let me get to that point, dear Johnny.
Oh, so my hunting partner Tony, Two Shot, when I first met him, he had dreads down to his shoulder blades, and I was like, "Oh, dude, yeah." And I'm like, "You might need to bring those back now. Rock the mountains."
Yeah.
So, okay, the one thing that really stood out to me when we chatted at the Western Hunt Summit or Western Hunting Expo last year is one of the biggest questions I have when I see the content you're putting out and I see you constantly are killing mature animals. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, is it what we're doing that's wrong or just not in the right place, right time, or what is it? And I asked a specific question to you that you followed up with me, which totally made sense. And it was something that I want to share with everyone and make sure that you don't miss this. So I asked Ryan last year, I go, "Ryan, when you're planning your hunts, because you're consistently killing these mature animals, how many days are you dedicating to each hunt?" Because a lot of the times the average hunter is a weekend warrior. Maybe they take a Friday off, maybe they take a Monday off, but they're not getting out for consecutive days. I know personally with my success that I had this last year, I hunted the most that I've ever hunted in my entire career last year, and it also paid off. My time spent afield, it contributed to my success of taking in animals. Your answer when you said, "I spend 7 to 10 days on a hunt, each hunt," it blew my mind, and then also was like, oh, okay, this makes sense.
Yeah.
Can you dive into that a little bit more? And if you don't have a certain number of days to give to a hunt, do you even go on it?
Oh boy. Um, yeah. So every hunt that I have planned, I now I'm to the point in my life. Now I couldn't do this when I was younger. But again, I think this is the third time I've mentioned I'm old. So I've I've lived a while and I've built myself up to this point where I can take these days. And so I try to carve out 10 days for every trip that I have. Now, am I going to use all 10 days? Maybe not. But generally, that's how I want it to go. And the goal is to try to take an animal on 8, 9, or 10. One of the last days is just typically how it goes. But there's nothing special about me in any way except for I've decided, like, I've dedicated myself to getting the days to spend back there. I got 10 days. When you have 10 days, it's going to give you the time to figure things out, to dial it in. And it's also going to allow you, sometimes it takes 2 days to get to your area. Well, there's 4 days in and out, maybe more if you're packing an animal out. Um, I think I think finding unmolested animals and having the time to work them, that's the recipe for me. Nothing great about me, but I am finding deer that don't get hunted as much, and so they're still, doing just what deer do, and then also just having the time to dedicate to sitting back, not having to rush stocks. um, it's amazing what happens when you're able to be extremely patient and you don't have this time crunch. um, it's really going to be difficult as a weekend warrior to consistently take large animals. Probably isn't going to happen unless you have spent a ton of time in your scouting. But even at that, sometimes the weather's not right that day. And that's your reason why you don't even put a stock on a big old animal. Sometimes it's wind, sometimes it's whatever. But I feel like there's this recipe that we've used where even if it's an area that we've learned a little bit in the past, it takes a day or two to get in. Um, you want to not have to push in too fast, too hard. Some of these areas you want to spend a day right on the outskirts of it and just not blowing out your area. If you're rushed, you're probably going to rush your glassing because you're in a time crunch. You're probably going to push past some animals that you probably wouldn't have needed to if you had more time. So I don't know. I think it's a winning recipe. Again, there's a lot of people out there that I look at, like the Robbie Dennings, those type folks, and they put the time in. They have the time. They carve out the time to put into it, and I think that's just worked really, really, really well for me. And honestly, it's the way I want to hunt anyway. I don't want to be rushed. Like, I love going up there and just sitting back, and it's almost like the hunt comes to you when you can sit back and watch an animal. Like, boy, that's a 50-50 chance of me getting on that within 40 yards. Maybe tomorrow he's going to be in that other second bed that's just down from that, and that's like a 90% chance. um, and I think having those days, Johnny, I'll just be flat honest, and I don't mean to sound egotistical in any way. um, I used to stomp in on stocks and blow them up and just on to the next one. And when you do that, you tend to settle for younger age class animals. But when you're targeting an old buck or bull, and you're spotting stock, um, y- you just have to have more time to dedicate. You have to get your stock right. So I don't make a whole lot of blown stocks anymore. Like, that's what I didn't want to have to say, but I'm saying it. I'm just going to say it.
Okay, so
Sometimes it's only like a stock or two. Versus back in the day, it was like, man, I had to do like 12 stocks before I ended up getting an arrow loose. So just being really careful about which stock that you're going to actually go and commit to.
man, that's great advice. And it's not egotistical because that is how you hunt. You hunt the hunt that you want to do. I love that. I remember this really hit me when you did an Instagram story update on your Colorado mule deer hunt,
Mm,
and you were given daily updates, and you're like, "Hey,
yeah.
here's my target buck, and he's not in the right spot. He's not in a killable spot." day 2 update or whatever day it was, and you kept giving these updates, and I'm following along, and this is where it hit me. I was like, well, how many days is this guy hunting? However, you were like, he's going to make mistakes, and
Yeah.
when he does, I'm going to capitalize. And I think this is something that people forget often, is just like I saw on social media, Steven Ranella or Meat Eater made a post of some viewer sent in a pine marten with its head stuck in a tree that hung
Saw
itself.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Animals make mistakes. They're not
Sure.
perfect. And so as long as we can be patient enough to put ourselves in position, then we are really going to skyrocket our chances of success of being able to arrow or shoot a deer or whatever type of animal it is.
Yeah, and like that was kind of just the classic case of what happens quite often, that Colorado hunt. I think I was parked at like 13,000 feet, so I got service up there for some reason. And I was also with my buddy Jeff, working some bucks. Jeff Lusk, he was working some bucks, just on the adjoining basin. So yeah, I watched that buck. It ended up being, I think, day 8, where he finally came away from that dang rock wall that I couldn't get above him. But there were younger bucks that were bedding down the mountain just a scotch, and if he was to bed in those other areas, I had an absolute fantastic shot at getting him. I knew he wasn't going to bed in that same spot forever, but he was just kind of like on the top end of this chute, too close to that wall for me to get a stalk or a play on. And yeah, day 8, he finally made a mistake, and that was a one stock. I only made one stock. I made another prior, but it was a half-hearted stock, and then ended up backing out. But that was day 8 where I finally got that really good play, and I got in tight and let that arrow loose and got a great buck out of it.
I love it. I got a question for you to follow up, because I know that if I was a couple years ago listening to this podcast and this conversation, I would have this question. And that is, if you do not have the amount of days that you want to hunt, do you rush in to take an animal at like a 50-50 shot? Or do you follow it up with the following weekend if you're a weekend warrior, expecting that animal to be in that relative same location? What would you do?
I just think with experience, expecting that animal to be there the next weekend, gosh, it's risky. If I didn't have the days, I would be much more reckless in my stalking. I feel like, instead of a couple few stalks on a hunt, you're probably going to want to get the numbers in. And I think what ultimately will happen there is you're probably not going to get the oldest age class animal on the mountain. You may have to just drop your expectations down a little bit if you just don't have the days to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. You know, I shot one really big animal in my hunting career so far, and it's a beautiful bull elk. And it was on a trip where I spent the most time in the woods.
Nice.
I took a whole week
Just,
off of school, and I was like, okay, I'm going on this long hunt. And I
yeah.
ended up taking one. Here, show you a picture of it. It's right there behind me.
And
Just,
I saw you just got that thing back.
whew,
Yeah, that's
man,
a fantastic bull.
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's just it. Like, I can't even explain. It doesn't make any sense why this happens this way it does, Johnny. But Brian Call has been hunting. We've been hunting together for the last few years as well, and he's picked up on it. Like, it's just how it works. Typically, the best animal comes from day 8, 9, or 10. Now, sometimes we're doing 12-day trips. The backpack gets a little heavy on the 12-day trips, but it's typically the last day or two that you end up getting it so dialed that that's when it happens. It's this mystical, magical thing that happens up there that it always tends to happen at the very end, and you finally score on that great animal. Not always, but I would say 75% of the time that's how it just works out. Is on those 10 dayers, it's usually day 8 or 9,
Yeah.
or sometimes the last day.
And so I do want to say this: I am a huge advocate for bear hunting, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I also feel like you are as well. I think you've maybe found more of a passion for it now than you probably have
Yeah.
earlier in your career. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but this is kind of what I'm
Absolutely
seeing.
love it. I love it more every year I do it. It's just so fun
It's
that
so
time.
much fun. Well, in the state of Washington, bear opens up August 1st. And
Yep.
so being a school teacher, I have so much I'm not working. I can, the moment that season opens, I have 3 weeks, before school starts or before I have to report back to work, where it's like I can dedicate my time in the woods and make a hunt as long as possible.
Yeah.
Have I done that yet? No, but the point is that if people are trying to figure out summer vacations or different stuff like that, it's a great opportunity. The weather's phenomenal. I mean, you're going to be able to capture and pick berries while you're at it and scout for multiple animals at the same time. I
You
mean,
know, uh, I I don't have many regrets from leaving the state of Washington. I'll admit that. There's not a whole lot of things I miss. A little bit of fishing, but the fall bear hunts back there were hard to beat. Absolutely. Like you said, back when I was there, it was like an August 15th opener. It's moved back to August 1st now. So, and you got the ability to take two bears, and that's either east side or east side now and west side. So, you can fill two bear tags in the state now. And you're right. I mean, you're up there in the huckleberry fields, picking berries, catching fish in some high lakes, and hunting bears. It's a great time to be up there, do a little scouting while you're at it. And that state is full of bears.
oh,
And the bears that you take that time of year, especially if you've got a couple weeks of huckleberries under their belt, they are just the fattest slobs that I mean they just roll down the mountain. They're so fat and roly poly. It's just great. So that meat is fantastic. And that's where you're putting up a crud ton of quart jars of bear fat. That's where I used to get all my bear fat was from those Washington fall season bears. End of August was really good for some of the fattest bears that you'll find they've had time to really settle into those berry fields, and it's just an absolute blast and cool time of year to be out doing it.
the other cool thing is, like you were saying about bringing a fishing pole and doing some fishing, because the days are so long in the month of August, you really
Yeah,
don't feel this pressure to be like, well, we have to hunt all day long because we only have this much daylight. And
yeah,
bears are bears. They are where you find them, and they're kind of always out. But people are always
yeah.
like, well, morning, evening. I'm like, dude, you literally
Midday,
midday, man.
midday is great, especially in the fall. I almost feel like if you're gonna hedge your bet on one side of the day, I would take midday till dusk. Deer fishing in the morning. You'll still see bears often in the morning, but not nearly as often as you see them midday and on during berry season. That's my opinion, anyway.
Yes, and I do want to say this for some hunting advice. And Ryan, back me up if you know this. Bears, you can make mistakes on bears and not blow out an entire area like it is with deer and elk. So, like, we shot and missed at a bear last year. I was like, okay, it's going to be here tomorrow as well. And sure as enough, it popped right back out
Yep.
because they are the baddest things on the mountain and they don't have anything to be fearful of. So, the point of blowing them out, as long as they don't catch your scent,
Hmm.
they're still going to be coming right back to the food source because the berries is what they need and what they want.
Well, yeah, and you think about especially in Washington, like North Cascades and all that country, even East Side and everywhere. There's these berry fields that are just like they're just popping, ripe, the ripest berries, and that's kind of pulling all the bears. I mean, a lot of times you're not just finding one bear in a berry patch, like a really nice bulbous ripe berry patch. You're finding multiple bears in that patch, and so they'll want to keep coming back to that area. Now, in really good berry years, they get spread out a little bit, but oftentimes you'll find like this one area that everything is just perfect. The berries are just really ripe, um, and there's enough bedding areas around it. They don't have to go too far to get to the berry field, and they'll just get right back on that berry field the next day. Now, I 100% believe that. Whereas it's not usually the case on an old mature buck or a big old bull.
Right. You give them any sound or
Yeah.
any moment and they're gone and good luck. So I
Right.
love it. Well, guys, we've reached the end of our time limit for this podcast. I know, Ryan, I could chat with you all day long and we could get into a whole lot more topics, and we're going to have to save that for another episode. But Rye, thank you so much for being on here. Thanks for sharing your wisdom, your experience, and all of that. How can people get signed up for the summit, find your
Mhm.
CBD products, or just follow along with all your journeys that you got going on?
Sure. Yeah, we probably have way too many .coms in our lineup right now. We've got we've got the Stealthy Nutrition Cbd.com. If you want to go check out, the supplements that we're doing, that'd be fantastic. Also, the Western Hunting Summit.com. You can go there and just kind of get the layout of the event, see if there's a summit that's right for you. Again, two of the three are completely sold out. The rifle, there's a few there, but yeah, go check it out. See, maybe this isn't the year you want to do it. Maybe it's next year. I love the fact that you're starting in on some events of your own over there in Washington State for guys. That's going to be fantastic. So it's cool to see and get more of that happening out there. But yeah, westernhuntingsummit.com, and you can kind of see everything we do with ours.
Awesome. Where can people go to watch your videos that you're putting out?
Well, we had some issues. I'll just briefly touch on that with some permits as far as national forest stuff. So some of the videos we have taken down ourselves while we sift through that. But the latest, like mule deer hunts and all that, just go to the Gritty YouTube channel and you can see them all there. But we hope to have those other bear hunts up here shortly again.
Awesome. Yeah, that's always an interesting topic of how they require permits if you're going to monetize the video.
Right.
Is that what it is?
Well, the definition has changed. Give me a minute and I'll just briefly explain. We contacted the department to ask them if we qualified. Do we need to get a permit? We reached out to see if we did, and the gal there actually said that we did not because we're not on a network. We don't run ads. We're not monetizing directly. So we got emails, we had meetings and all that. Brian especially, and and 2 years later, they decided, well, if there's any indirect monetization, like Brian also has a podcast where he does run like codes. Well, because you have a YouTube channel, that can help you grow your podcast. So it's indirect compensation. So they now say that that's not allowed. Um, and actually, they wrote violations for it. But we showed them the emails, and they were like, "Okay, all right, yeah, you're right. We did say that you could, and you were doing everything right. But we also now want to have you guys pull those down until we figure this out." So right now, where it's at, um, there's a lot of people fighting to get the permit system changed, and it needs to be changed. It's archaic. It was built to protect the lands, the public lands that we all care about, with like film crews, movie sets, where there's going to be potential for some damage. We just have a camera and a tripod. We don't do anything. We're not harming anything. So they've been ordered by Congress to change the rules, and that's kind of where we're at right now. We're starting to see um, some of that happening, fortunately. So here pretty soon, we expect that those archaic rules are going to be dropped or at least tweaked. That is workable for everybody who wants to go out and just film something with your iPhone and put it on YouTube. Because right now, you have potential to get a violation. It's nuts. So
It's so weird. I mean, I totally agree with you. Like, get with the times. Totally.
yeah,
We're
yep,
not out there cutting trees down and building structures and all this stuff. You're literally just carrying a camera with you, like a bird. Like if someone was filming birds,
yeah.
and
Well, the intent of the rule was just that, and I agree with the intent was to, there has to be some type of a process where people pay if you're doing some type of damage, potential damage to the properties up there. But where it's at now, we're just guys out there doing nothing different than setting up a tripod and filming. Um, so it's not the intent. And the archaic rules come from some of these permits. You have to apply months in advance, right? Um, and trying to apply months in advance for a small little area. Maybe this is a 5 mile stretch or 5 square mile area. And then you have to keep your hunt in that little small area confined, and you can't go out of that, or you're not in your permit area to be able to film. Also, there's a time frame. And like we like to adjust our hunts with weather. Say, well, this is not a great time to go. Let's keep this off for a week, and maybe we'll go to that next week. When you buy a permit, you're locked into these dates. You're locked into this area. You can't swap trailheads and go somewhere else. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work for our community. It doesn't work for the overland community, backcountry skiers, rock climbers, kayakers. They all fall under the same umbrella. They're all in violation by their new rules. So, to tell a backcountry skier to get your film permits, they're looking for those powder days, right? They're looking for the perfect day to go out and film these. They're just archaic. They need to change. If they want to put a permit in place that covers you for a month or covers you for the year, I think most people will pay that. And there won't be the handcuffs that they have on us at this point.
Yeah, totally agree. And man, for the content in which I am starting to create and put out as well, which hasn't released yet, it's definitely
Yep.
making me think twice of like, oh, well, what type of issues could arise? Hopefully
Yeah.
none, because you blazed the trail and knocked down all the barriers for me. So
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. No, it's I think we're changing for the better. It needs to happen. Like I said, Congress told the Department of Agriculture to change this back in 2013, and they haven't changed it yet. But there's a new ruling where they just eliminated permits from national parks. We're hoping that sets a precedent that follows through and covers national forests and other BLM public lands as well.
great to know. Great to know. Well, as always, always amazing conversation with you, Ryan. Thank you so much, listeners. I hope you guys really enjoyed this, and go follow Ryan on his adventures, because dude, he is putting out some fire content, and it's so much fun to constantly see what the next photo is that he's going to release, or the next video and all that. So everyone, Ryan Lampers, the Stealthy Hunter, the one of Washington's greatest kept secrets, and we wish we could have him back right now. So, but also because he's gone, it's freed up a lot more mature animals for all of us to shoot, because he kills them all. All right, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. As always, freedom on and stay soulful. If you enjoyed today's podcast, I'd love it if you could go ahead and give this a rating as well as subscribe. Also, you can check us out on Instagram under the Soulful Hunter Podcast. Make sure to tag us in pictures and posts, and use the hashtag Soulful Hunter. To find out more about the Soulful Hunter Podcast, go to soulfulhunter.com, and be sure to follow the podcast, as we are going to be bringing you a lot of great information, insight, and changing lives through primal adventure. I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. Stay tuned and stay soulful.